I think it's time that we take a quick moment of silence. The Colorado Buffaloes, I think it's safe to say, I don't think they're really a topic anymore, J-Mart.
Probably not, unless we have some off the field comments and stuff. I don't know that there's much to say now.
They lost 28-10 to Nebraska.
It wasn't that close.
It wasn't that close. They had 16 yards rushing on 22 attempts. That's 0.7 yards per carry. Here's the crazy part, by the way. Nebraska, 12 penalties for 105 yards. I was one of those guys in the offseason. I tried to sell myself, the portal this, they've added that guy here, da-da-da-da-da, this and that. Struggled with North Dakota State, tried to tell myself, well, O-line wasn't good. Defense wasn't good. But, no, they'll be okay. No, it's just done. I think it's done. They play Colorado State next week, and then they open Big 12 play in a few weeks against Baylor. I think they got to go on like a minimum 3-game winning streak before I even think about caring about them again. And based on what I've seen the first 2 weeks, I just don't think that's going to happen, Jim.
Shedeur Sanders got sacked 6 times by 6 different Nebraska players.
Oh, wow.
When I looked at that stat, I was going through just the box score. I was like, let's see how many times he got sacked, because I knew it was like 4 in the first half. It was 6, but it was won by 6 different players. So they sent guys from everywhere and got him. He ends up with negative 30 yards on the ground as a result of that. So here's why what you said is right. One, okay, they're not very good still. They may be better than they were last year, and they may still not be very good. Shedeur Sanders' Heisman campaign is over. We don't need to worry about that, so that's not going to be a talking point. And really, Travis Hunter's is too. Even though he had 100 yards and all that, they're not going to be relevant enough for the Heisman to be talked about. Nebraska does seem to be a little better, and you kind of expected it. Matt Rule hasn't forgotten how to coach college football. It wasn't a great stop in the NFL, but many have done that and then gone back to college and shown that they were meant to be college coaches. They won at home. They look good doing so. Like we said, it wasn't as close as the final score indicates, but Colorado just doesn't look good. They still don't look like they fixed it. They put 10 new starters on 10 new players on both their offense and defensive line in the offseason, and you really couldn't tell it. And that's Nebraska's not going to be one of the better teams that they'll see. They've still got some hard stuff coming, and now I think you look at it and you look at the rest of that schedule and you say, all right, well, Kansas State, Arizona, Utah, Kansas, who lost, Oklahoma State, who came back and won in that double overtime thriller against Arkansas today. But I look at all those games, and I'm just like, I don't know how you win those games. I'm not sure how they may not duplicate the record they had last year. They definitely – I do think this is the epitaph, though. I don't think Colorado is going to be a focus of Torres and Martin going forward, outside of the wrong kind of news or just some crazy play that Sanders or Hunter made. But in terms of their relevance, they're done. There's no point in continuing this. It's not interesting anymore.
It isn't. And, yeah, I mean, I still will pseudo-defend them because, listen, Shedeur threw a pick 6 on the goal line under pressure. The defense wasn't terrible, but the O-line just, listen, I'm not a coach. I always feel like, well, it's like, but, whatever it takes to fix an O-line, it did not happen. And this was something that, I felt like, I thought the defense wasn't as bad as people said it was in week 1, but I thought the O-line was every bit as bad. And it was just crazy. Shedeur really had no time in the pocket. The rushing yards are skewed a little bit because in college sacks, the negative yards from sacks count as negative rushing yards. But I mean, their leading rusher had 32 yards on 5 carries, so it's just like I don't know. It was I'll say I'm a little bummed. I bought into the fever. I got a little excited last year. I was, and by the way, it was so fun. I know there was a lot of noise and this and that.
It was fun. We loved it. Like that. It's better for college football for them to be good and relevant because there's so much. There's so much like pizzazz around it and flash. But if they're not good, there's no storyline there outside of the wrong kind of storyline that none of us want to waste our time with.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is that, I think that, and even coming into the year, it was like you could kind of justify it. Well, it was year one, and it was this, and it was that, but it is now year two. They don't look fundamentally better on they look kind of worse on the offensive line, if that's possible.
That can't be possible.
It was so bad, and as you mentioned, J. Mart, schedule does not get easier, even if some of those Big 12 teams, maybe are not as good as we thought. You still got Kansas State, you got at Arizona, you got Utah, who was awesome today. You got Oklahoma State as well to end the year. So, Colorado loses, they fall to 1-1.